Glad to be with you today. This is Andrew Phipps. And as always, we hope that our Faith, Family, and Freedom program today will be one that will just enhance the day. Hopefully something will be said or spoken that maybe will encourage us, that will help to enlighten us. And so if we can do some of those things, that will be tremendous. I really believe that during these programs we have a great opportunity to reach a lot of people, and we especially want to thank each one of you for taking the time to be with us. Always remember, too, now that if you'd ever like to share these programs with your friends, they're also on YouTube. Right now, we're going to get into the interview that I did recently in Alexandria, Virginia. I think you'll enjoy this. I'm here in Alexandria, Virginia, with a nice lady that I met 5 or 6 years ago, Eve Nunez. And she's been with the Sanctuary House of Prayer and has promoted Jewish Christian relationships and has been a strong advocate for those relationships and has worked tirelessly to go with the dictates of the Bible as we love on the Jewish people. Eve, it's good to have you on our program.
Thank you. What an honor for me to be here with you today.
Well, thank you so much. Can you tell us just a little bit about your work, the thrust of your work?
Well, I first must say that my purpose for being involved in the Jewish community is because I am a Jewish girl. Both my grandmas were Jewish, so I knew at a young age that I was to speak up and not be silent, like Proverbs 31, 8 and 9 says, to speak up for those that don't have a voice. And I saw even as a young girl that a lot of Jewish people didn't have a voice.
Right. Do you, in your, I'll call it in your tenure, in your years of being involved and being a spokesperson for this, do you see improvements in what you have done and others?
Yes, it's been a lot of advocacy work. I started doing a lot of advocacy work in Washington, D.C., I would say about the year 2000. And then I partnered and became a member of AIPAC, an organization that's American Israeli Political Action Committee. I became a part of that, and through training, they were able to teach me how to do advocacy work, go to my members of Congress, even though I was doing that prior to that in Arizona, because I've always been involved politically, to educate my members of Congress.
Right, AIPAC.
AIPAC, yes.
And from a biblical standpoint, I know this is, I don't mean it as a trite question, because we as Christians are reminded in the Abrahamic covenant that we're to be a friend to God's people, right?
Yes.
Do you feel that that overall we are making some advancements and improvements? Do you feel in that direction?
I believe we are, because there's been a lot of public policy. There's been a lot of bills that have passed through Congress. And the first one I want to talk about is one, it's called the QME, that was passed. There was in 1989, 98, there was the United States and Israel signed a 10-year MOU, which is a Memorandum of Understanding and Security Agreement to increase security assistance to Israel while passing economic aid. Under the agreement, the United States committed to provide Israel with $21.3 billion in security assistance. Then in 2007, America committed to a new 10-year Memorandum of Understanding, which is an MOU worth $30 billion. And that expired in 2017. So that's when we picked it up, did more advocacy work, met with more members of Congress because we wanted a bipartisan support. So the history, can I talk a little bit about the history of the terms of this? Mm-hmm. It's called that the United States had supported Israel politically since its inception, which is in May of 1948. But it was not until the 1960s that it began to regularly provide security assistance to the Jewish state. Since then, America has provided Israel with more than $70 billion in direct assistance. By means of its annual foreign aid bill, U.S. security assistance to Israel, the most tangible manifestation of American support for the Jewish state. Assistance primarily from the form of funding for Israel to purchase the arms needed to defend itself from its adversaries So one thing that I did a lot of advocacy work was for the QME. The QME was a core element of American policy, was to maintain the Israel's qualitative military edge, which is QME, the ability to counter and defeat any credible conventional military threat while sustaining minimal damages and casualties. In 2008, Congress wrote America's long-standing commitment to Israel's QME into law and required the President of the United States, this is law, the President of the United States to continually access Israel's QME to make sure it was maintained. So since 2008, this is a bill that passed into law that the President of the United States is to make sure that Israel always maintains its qualitative military edge. So it happened, and it was advocacy work by people like yourself, going to Congress members and myself, and doing a lot of advocacy work.
And friends, I hope that you enjoyed the interview there with Eve Nunez. She's really an advocate for AIPAC, America-Israel Political Action Committee, and as she said, she was born in Israel. And all of us as Christians have a favorable attitude about Israel. They are God's people. And I thought it was very noteworthy to say that of the aid that we give to Israel, 75% of that is spent in our country for their weapons and so on. 75%, that's huge. Well, I think those kind of facts are worth knowing. We have a song selection today that haven't used, I don't believe, excuse me, ever. But in this particular song, the song says, "If We Never Meet Again." And one of the things that struck me as I viewed this were the numbers, the people that are no longer with us that would have been considered some of the giants in gospel music, whether it was James Blackwood or George Jones or Glenn Payne or the Spear family, so many Happy Goodmans when you see there. And, you know, each one of us, the life is terminal. It's like a shadow. It's like a vapor. We're like a flower. One writer said our life is faster than a weaver's shuttle. We need to do what we can to make a mark. You know, the little slot there on the grave marker between the birth date and the death date, we can do with that particular mark whatever we will, but it indicates our life, a span of time in which we make decisions. And I thought that you might enjoy this today. And let's just kind of stroll back down memory lane a little bit as we hear Cynthia Clausen sing, "If We Never Meet Again." If you'd like to have any of our products, we do have a Faith, Family, and Freedom handbook. We have some DVDs. We did one with Pastor Jim Scudder in Washington, D.C. a little over a year ago. It's called Can You Find God in D.C.? I think you will enjoy the beautiful programming that was done in the Jefferson and Lincoln Memorials and other places. If you want any of our products, just call us or get in touch with us as would be indicated there on the screen.
It's time to plan for the 47th Annual Southern Gospel Singing at Sea Cruise. Join Andrew and Shirlene Phipps as you depart from Port Canaveral for the trip, January 30th through February 3rd, 2023, for warm sunshine and tropical breezes in the Caribbean. With 30 of the top Southern Gospel groups in the nation, you will be entertained and you'll be inspired by the best in Southern Gospel preaching. Dine on delicious foods, see the sights, and bask in the warm glow of Christian fellowship on the world's largest all-Christian cruise to the Bahamas. Hurry, because this trip of a lifetime sells out fast. All that is needed now is a small deposit, and you can continue to pay over time. For more information, call Andrew Phipps at 765-744-4239.
The weather is heating up, and so are the deals. It's time for spring specials at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. Lease a new Chevy Equinox LS for only $159 a month, or lease a new Chevy Blazer for just $269 per month. Save thousands on nearly 200 pre-owned vehicles in stock, all with the warranty and complimentary maintenance. Hurry, once these vehicles are gone, so are the special prices. Don't miss out on the spring specials, only at Sam Pierce Chevrolet. The best Chevy deals are in the country.
It's a delight to be here in the office of Gary Bauer today and his great group here that American values. And on numerous occasions we've chatted and talked. But today, for our television viewers that are on so many different stations, I know you'll agree that it's an honor to find out a little bit more about this Gary Bauer from over in Newport, Kentucky, which was also Kentucky being the home of my mother and dad, and a candidate for president in 2000. A wonderful background, a man, and we're just going to chat a little bit. So, Gary Bauer, thank you that you would be a part of our programming.
My pleasure. Great to be with you. I've always enjoyed our previous times when we were getting together in the during the Trump-Pence years, and it's not quite the same right now, but nonetheless, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, and of course your son Zach worked for Mr. Pence, Vice President Pence, and I've known Zach a good while. A wonderful man. Understand that married and got a boy by the name of Charlie. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And he's a great little baby, a little over 4 months old, and
are you pretty proud of him?
Absolutely. We got 2 daughters, and between them, they've given us 6 grandchildren. But Zach is the only one that carries the Bauer name, and you know, he waited a while before he got married, but now we've got little Charlie Bauer, so that's nice.
That's congratulations to Zach and his wife and family. As we talk here today, Gary Bauer, we're thinking on our faith, family, and freedom, and I know those topics are intertwined in all that you encompass. And I guess we could say that in a totality of summary, that they pretty well reflect who you are. Would that be right?
It's a pretty good description of what's motivated me in being interested in public policy and government. And I continue to think that, you know, the real battles in America, we have all kinds of serious foreign policy challenges as we all know, particularly now. But domestically, these issues of family and faith and our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, those are really the battles that will decide the future of America more than I think any foreign enemy will. So yes, I care about those things. I think the American people do too. And I think some of the big divisions in America are over exactly those 3 subjects.
Are you optimistic?
Well, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, you know, while being filmed, but I've been known to be, you know, sort of pessimistic generally, and you know, I don't want to say I'm a grouch, but you know, I sometimes am always looking for the problems. But then I worked for Reagan for 8 years, and he was the consummate optimist. In fact, he fired pessimists. So I found myself very able during those 8 years to shift to optimism. And I don't want to give it up now, even though on a day-to-day basis, it sometimes seems difficult to remain optimistic when we see all the trends in our country and the challenges we face.
That person that lives in Spartanburg, South Carolina, or South Bend, Indiana, or Louisville, Kentucky, or Indianapolis, Indiana, what advice do you have for just the average, we call it America. We like to think in America that we respect everybody. We're not a class system. but that person that does his or her work to the best of the ability that has been given to them, what do you see for them? What can we relate or give to those people that might give them that sense of hope?
Well, I think whenever I get out around the country and talk to really the group of people that make this country what it is, it's not the bureaucrats here in Washington. It's not the cultural elites and so forth. It's the families that get up every day, obey the law. They go do their job. They do their best to raise their children the right way. Those have always been the greatest natural resource we've had. I would say to those Americans that in previous times in our history when we have faced challenges, you can go all the way back to the colonial times.
Yes.
When we were trying to get out from underneath Great Britain, or the great struggle of the Civil War, of World War I, World War II, the Great Depression. In all of those periods of challenge, it was that middle American that ended up saving the country. And I think there might be a temptation now for many Americans out of discouragement to say to themselves, there's nothing I can do about this. It's in other people's hands. I'm just going to try to protect my little corner of the world here and ignore everything else. I would say you should be optimistic about our future if people like you go into the public square and defend your God-given liberties, just as generation after generations of Americans have done.
Judge Learned Hand had a wonderful quotation. He said that liberty lies in the hearts of men and women. When it lies there, it needs no law, no constitution to keep it. When it dies there, no law, no constitution can save it. I think that's a good quote.
It's a fantastic quote. We're living at a time when all the things we've taken for granted, the freedom to worship as we see fit, the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, all of those things are under deep, deep threat from elements of our own government and those in the corporate world, big globalist corporations that are working hand in glove to try to restrict the freedoms of everyday Americans.
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is?
Yeah, why? It would seem to me, just looking at it just from a very parochial standpoint, it would seem that everybody would want to advance freedom.
Well, you certainly would think that, but in this country, what made us so revolutionary, and Andrew, I know you know all these things, but what made us different than any other country was that in our founding documents, we said that our liberty did not come from government, that it came from God.
Amen.
And that second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, right in the middle of it, about 20 words, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by not their government, but by their creator. Our elites, and when I say our elites, I mean the people that, the permanent bureaucracy, the people in our political classes, the people that make the movies, sell the music, dominate still many of our courts, run our universities and colleges, and as we've seen in the last year or so, have stuck their tentacles all the way down to the elementary school level in America. Those people statistically no longer believe in the Judeo-Christian God. And if you don't believe in God, well then you can't possibly believe the number fundamental one idea of the American Republic, which is our liberty comes from Him.
Right.
So if you don't believe in God, then you're not going to believe liberty comes from something that doesn't exist. You then tell yourself, well, liberty does come from government, and that liberty in the wrong hands, meaning the people, can lead to bad results.
Hello, friends. This is Andrew Phipps, and I believe that we need all of the materials that we can gather to help us as we combat the attack upon our faith, our family, and our freedoms. We need to be educated, and I have a handbook that has been given to state legislatures. It's been given to members of Congress. It's a colorfully created handbook that has graphs, charts, quotes, and different things in it. You'll be impressed with it. And also we have DVDs. We have CDs that are God and Country, Return to Greatness, and Faith, Family, and Freedom, some other wonderful materials. See the contact information on the screen. Be sure that you order some because these will be of a tremendous help. They are supplemental materials to help you in your Christian walk. And may God bless. And friends, what can I say? I have really enjoyed being a part of your day with these faith, family, and freedom topics. I'd also like to challenge you that if you could help me, we'd like to get these faith, family, and freedom handbooks into as many state legislatures as possible. For example, any page that I turn to, you can see, for example, here is about the Black Robe Brigade, colonial America. We have so many interesting things, and particularly preachers that enjoy quotations. This book is replete with a lot of those. We can get those into the state legislatures. If you might share the desire and the goal, be sure that you call me, and we'll work it out somehow, some way. We need those to get, I give them away when we go to D.C., to members of Congress, and we've given them to so many people, hundreds, literally thousands. And so if you want to be a part of the Faith, Family, and Freedom programs, we certainly would thank you in advance for that. We are totally dependent upon the goodwill of churches, and they're sharing our vision of reaching as many as possible while we have time and opportunity. But I want to thank you. Please remember us, keep us in your prayers, and share these programs with others. We're on YouTube, but until the next time, have a good day.